Easy Stupid Love on Pearl's Friday Attractions.
出嚟玩一定要玩盡啲，
你咪玩到咁癲啊！
你咪多事啦！
你唔知對住呢啲嘢都犯法嘅咩？我可以報警拉你㗎。
你睇下啲演唱會都有放煙火啦。
咁點同咧？淨係專業人士兼且得到政府嘅批准先至可以表演㗎。
唔好理佢啦！
Using fireworks or pyrotechnic materials illegally can have serious consequences.
It's America's favorite battleground.
Today we're here to win you over.
Who will be the last one standing?
And you have just hit the peak.
Ready? 1, 2, 3.
Yes!
Saturday, America's Got Talent, Season 8, at 8:30 on Pearl.
CY Leung uses policy address to warn of anarchy if Hong Kong continues to fight over political reform. Housing also dominates policy address, but not everyone is happy. And Charlie Hebdo sells out within hours of first sale since Paris terror attacks. Good evening. Leung Chun-ying dedicated much of the beginning of his policy address to issues surrounding constitutional reform. Directing his comments specifically at students, the CE warned of anarchy, saying Hong Kong needs to be alert to misunderstandings regarding constitutional matters. Diane To begins our coverage.
Slogans, banners, umbrellas. The Pan-Democrats protested as they walked out of the meeting, just as Leung Chun-ying was beginning his address.
We walk out on CY Leung to manifest our unreserved, unequivocal discontent.
Two People Power lawmakers stayed behind to continue rallying inside, and they refused to follow LegCo President Zhang Yuxing's orders to leave. They were eventually dragged out by security personnel. The CE, apparently used to the opposition by now, continued unfazed, even quipping about it before finally beginning his speech 12 minutes behind schedule.
Thank you very much for the opposition party members for the solemn and peaceful environment now.
In his introduction, Leung made repeated warnings for Hong Kong to stay alert. He said discussions on constitutional development over the past year have revealed that many youngsters fail to properly understand the relationship between the central and SAR governments, as well as constitutional requirements. He made a point to name the Hong Kong University Students' Union magazine Undergrad for putting forward what he called fallacies in the publication's cover story in February last year, entitled Hong Kong People Deciding Their Own Fate, and in a book it published in 2013 named Hong Kong Nationalism.
Undergrad and other students, including student leaders of the Occupy movement, have misstated the facts. We must stay alert.
Over the phone, former undergrad editor-in-chief Leung Kai-ping said he believes the CE's comments are an attempt to stop or scare away youngsters now in university from exercising their freedom of speech. He disagreed with the CE's view that the publications were promoting fallacies and questioned why the government is refusing to give room for discussion on these matters. Diane To, TVB News.
The chief executive is proposing a multi-pronged approach to solving the housing problem. This includes a pilot scheme to give public housing tenants a better opportunity to become homeowners. Leung Chun-ying also said Hong Kong lacks developable land and that the city has to make hard choices on development. Stephanie Choi reports.
Today, Chief Executive Leung Chun-ying described housing as the most critical of all livelihood issues in Hong Kong.
What Hong Kong lacks is not land, but land that is developable. A substantial amount of land was sold for non-development uses, such as country parks, to improve environment. We also lowered the development density of land newly planned for development. These are the causes for serious shortage of housing supply that we have been facing in recent years. Society as a whole must make hard choices.
Noting the overwhelming public response to the latest batch of home ownership scheme flats on offer, the CE vowed to further improve the housing ladder. The housing ladder is made up of 3 rungs: public rental housing or PRH for low-income households, home ownership scheme or HOS flats for low to middle-income households, and private housing for everyone else. The policy address suggests adding a new rung between PRH and HOS flats to sell new public housing units to low-income families at a price lower than HOS flats. The government will also turn to the Urban Renewal Authority for the supply of subsidized sale flats. By the end of this year, the authority will be selling 300 flats in Kai Tak that were originally intended for the Flat for Flat scheme at a 30% discount.
We only got this today, so we still have to deliberate on how we are going to push forward with all these ideas of increasing supply for subsidized flat for sale. And what kind of subsidized flat for sale is also still under consideration.
To meet society's demand, the CE said the administration is working with public and non-government organizations to ease long-term land and housing shortages.
I find it a little bit disappointed is instead, CE did not say more about how to help those middle-class income people. They may not be qualified for public housing, but on the other hand, because of the high price of the private housing, they find it, very difficult to get a decent living area.
Ms. Chan, a nurse, says she and other young people can identify with this problem. She's planning to get married and is now waiting to see if she will be one of the few lucky ones to get an HOS flat. Ms. Chan says she will consider getting a discounted subsidized sale flat if it's 50% off market price. Steffi Choi, TVB News.
With the labour force expected to decline from around 2018, Leung Chun-ying proposed a number of measures to tackle manpower issues. These include an increase in the minimum wage and schemes to attract talent from outside Hong Kong. Owen Fung has that story.
The chief executive today announced the statutory minimum wage will go up from $30 to $32.50 per hour, pending approval from lawmakers. And with the population aging rapidly, Leung proposed extending the retirement age of civil servants while encouraging employers in the private sector to implement appropriate measures to extend the working life of their staff. Aside from increasing the productivity of the local labour force, the policy address includes a number of measures to attract non-local talent. A pilot scheme will be implemented to attract children of permanent Hong Kong residents who have emigrated to return to the city. And the government will consider drawing up a talent list to boost the recruitment of high-quality talent. Some legislators welcome the administration's proposal.
In order to move forward, there is a need for talented people.
But the Capital Investment Entrance Scheme will be suspended from tomorrow. The scheme has been in place for more than a decade and attracting mainlanders and foreign nationals to invest here. That's because Hong Kong needs manpower rather than more capital, Leung explained during a press conference afterwards. On the shortage of labour in the construction industry, the chief executive proposed to import skilled workers under certain circumstances.
Allowing imported skilled workers to work across various public sector works projects can enhance visibility of deployment, maximize the productivity of skilled workers, and control costs more effectively.
Still, Leung promised to put money into training local workers and give them priority in employment by setting up a dedicated recruitment centre for the construction industry. Owen Fung, TVB News.
The chief executive also rolled out a number of initiatives aimed at enhancing education, training and career guidance services for youngsters. But in the wake of the Occupy protests, plans to review the curriculum of Chinese history had legislators concerned. Among the policies targeting youth and education, Leung announced that the Committee on Free Kindergarten Education will look into encouraging kindergartens to provide additional full-day services and finding ways to extend support to needy families. Also up for a review is the teaching of Chinese history.
DPA will renew the curriculum of Chinese history and world history and enrich the learning experience. The training of teachers will also be enhanced. The objectives are to reinforce students' interest and understanding of Chinese history and culture and broaden their global outlook.
But education sector legislator Ip Kin Yoon is worried that this may be influenced by Leung Chun-ying's political bent.
I think about the CY, the CE is talking about it. It seems to be that they put all the emphasis on the political concern. And the teaching of Chinese history is not only for promoting patriotism and so on. So this is not our purpose. We want to nurture independent thinking. We want our students to learn from history. The most important thing is we should uphold professionalism.
In the same line, the chief executive rolled out a subsidy scheme for Hong Kong primary and secondary school students to join exchange programs with mainland schools. The plan will also see the number of sister Hong Kong and mainland schools double in the next 3 years.
Also in focus in Leung Chun-ying's 2015 policy address were community colleges of University Grants Committee-funded institutions. Leung noted their fast-growing surpluses and said his government will ensure that the money will benefit students. Overseas, the French magazine targeted in last week's terror attacks in Paris has published its first issue since the killings, selling millions of copies within hours of its release today. It comes as the Yemen branch of Al-Qaeda claimed responsibility for the attacks, which left 12 people dead at the offices of Charlie Hebdo. James Aiken reports.
At a distribution center on the outskirts of Paris, a portion of the unprecedented print run of as much as 5 million copies of Charlie Hebdo is about to hit the streets.
Ça fait chaud au cœur quand même.
Distributing Charlie Hebdo warms my heart, says this delivery driver. He is still here. He never left. The highly anticipated edition is an emotional act of defiance by the surviving staff of the satirical newspaper, who've been working out of borrowed offices since the attack. This week's cover features a caricature of the Prophet Muhammad, holding a sign reading, "I am Charlie," with the words, "All is forgiven." As soon as he wrote the caption, cartoonist Renaud Louzet says he cried, and at that moment the staff knew the drawing would be the cover. Even before the new edition was released, Islamic authorities warned against publishing more cartoons of the Prophet Muhammad, saying the move would likely spark a new wave of hatred. Despite the warnings, demand has outstripped supply. Copies across Paris have quickly sold out. Meanwhile, a new amateur video has surfaced showing the gunman who murdered 12 people in the Charlie Hebdo attack. The video, shot from a nearby rooftop, shows the killers calmly reloading their weapons and then bearing down on a police car, blocking their path before speeding off. Some pieces of the terror plot are coming together for investigators who are learning more about the travel history of the attackers. And a Frenchman believed to have links to one of the Charlie Hebdo killers has appeared for an extradition hearing in a Bulgarian court after he tried to cross into Turkey. Meanwhile, France continues to remember the victims of the Paris attacks.
L'islam est la deuxième religion.
At a special session of the French Parliament, France's Prime Minister said that Islam is France's second religion, and now it's the country's challenge to be able to demonstrate this. James Aiken, TVB News.
At least 12 people were killed in eastern Ukraine yesterday when a passenger bus came under heavy fire. As Alan Bookney reports, the incident could deal a blow to hopes that a short-lived and shaky ceasefire can take hold.
Civilians traveling on a commuter bus in the separatist-held stronghold of Donetsk were killed Tuesday afternoon by what Ukraine claims were rockets fired from a launcher in rebel territory. Regional authorities loyal to Kiev said the bus was passing a Ukrainian army checkpoint, putting it in the line of fire. The warring sides are now trading accusations over who is responsible. The head of the main command center of the Ukrainian armed forces told legislators that despite the truce reached in December,